Damning testimony at the latest January 6th committee hearing. This as Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton appears on Capitol Hill to testify at an abortion hearing. Plus, Highland Park in the spotlight at yesterday's White House ceremony marking the passage of a bipartisan gun control bill. Here to talk about all that and more are Congresswoman Robin Kelly, a Democrat from Madison, Congressman Krishnamorthi, a Democrat from Schaumburg, and Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, a Democrat from Evanston. We also invited all of the Republicans in the Illinois congressional delegation. None accepted our invitation for this evening, but we thank the three of you for joining us. So today's January 6th committee hearing painted a detailed picture of what went on inside the White House and the role former President Donald Trump and his advisors played in the riots. Take a look at what Republican Congresswoman and Committee Vice Chair Liz Cheney had to say.
President Trump is a 76-year-old man. He is not an impressionable child. Just like everyone else in our country, he is responsible for his own actions and his own choices. As our investigation has shown, Donald Trump had access to more detailed and specific information showing that the election was not actually stolen than almost any other American. And he was told this over and over again.
Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, what's your reaction to today's January 6th committee hearing?
No, I think it's so incredibly important for the American people just to hear the truth. These are people who are under oath. These are people who have all the information about what was really going on. And I think the American people are paying attention. We know that. And are going to act accordingly. Certainly, we want to hold people accountable for what they do. We want them to take this information with them to the polls as well.
Congresswoman Kelly, who's the audience here? Is it the Department of Justice? Is it the GOP? Are the Republicans?
I think it's the Department of Justice, but I think it's the public and the Republicans as well. As my colleague just said, we're hoping that Americans are watching so they can remember this when they go to the poll, as well as other things also.
Congressman Krishnamoorthi, former President Donald Trump recently tried to call an unnamed witness, and the panel has referred that incident to the Department of Justice. Vice Chair Liz Cheney explained this during the hearing today. Should the former president face any sort of witness tampering or witness intimidation charges?
Possibly. And I think that any attempt to influence these witnesses would absolutely violate the law. And I think that the whole problem that the Justice Department has with Donald Trump is trying to prove corrupt intent. That is, doing things knowing that they are unlawful or illegal. And this man knows exactly what he's doing to be unlawful and illegal. So many of his advisors keep telling him that what he's doing is unlawful and illegal, and he continues. And that proves corrupt intent. And I think that he needs to be held accountable for that.
Congresswoman Schakowsky, are there other crimes that you believe the former president should be charged with?
You know, from beginning to end, the kinds of things that he did with the big lie, which has so many offshoots, that he did, trying to actually encourage finding thousands more votes that he knew were not his votes and intimidating people and legitimate people who were at the polls. That kind of behavior is what people on television, not to mention throwing his lunch against the wall. I guess that's not a crime.
Congresswoman Kelly, only 19% of GOP voters who believe Trump's effort to overturn the 2020 election threatened American democracy. That's according to a new poll from the New York Times and Siena College. How concerning is it that these hearings don't seem to be moving the needle on Republican voters?
Well, it's very disappointing. As one that was in the gallery on January 6th on my hands and knees, it's disappointing that more of them are not interested in what the truth is and keeping our democracy intact. I mean, it's just so important. But, people say a lot of different things during polls. We'll see when they have to go to the poll, and will they really support Donald Trump in 2024 if he does, in fact, decide to run.
So turning the discussion to guns and reform there, Representative Schakowsky, you met with survivors of the Highland Park massacre today. Tell us what you heard from them.
I met with Highland Park people today, who are absolutely traumatized. Their children were with them. Their children are frightened and will be for a long time. But they formed an organization in the last 6 days of hundreds of people that are determined to get a ban on assault weapons. And I'm telling you, these people are fierce. They're not going away. And that's why they're in Washington right now, and they're going to have a rally tomorrow.
Governor J.B. Pritzker and Highland Park Mayor Nancy Rotering were at the White House yesterday, privately urging President Biden to push for a federal ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Here's what Mayor Rotering said after that meeting.
We in Highland Park banned assault weapons 9 years ago, but we need the rest of the country, obviously, to catch up with us. The fact that guns in these shootings are legally obtained says that these laws need to be changed, but most importantly, weapons designed for combat need to be removed from the streets of the United States.
Congresswoman Kelly, you were at the White House yesterday to mark the passage or the signing of the Safer Communities Act. Is reinstituting a ban on the high-capacity magazines and assault weapons, is this a real possibility?
I think it is a real possibility. So many people have been affected by gun violence, period, by gun violence with these military weapons. And as was said, not only in Highland Park, but in many other places, people want to see us ban these, and they want to see us raise the age of who can buy guns to 21. There's a lot of public sentiment, out there. And as Jan said, the Highland Park folks are traumatized and those kind of things. Imagine, the people that live with it every single day, in their blocks and their neighborhoods, the young kids from some of those areas. So, we're going to have a traumatized country, and this is such an American problem. It's just so very sad. And hopefully some of our colleagues on the other side will realize that and want to do right, especially for our children.
Congressman Krishnamoorthi, before we take a break here, in the wake of the Highland Park July 4th parade shooting, hundreds of activists, as we just heard Representative Schakowsky mention, hundreds are heading to D.C. To march, basically, for change, to push for an assault weapons ban. This has been going on, of course, as we know, since the Sandy Hook shooting. What does it take to actually move the needle with lawmakers? Is it calls? Is it letters, marches, and demonstrations?
I think it's all of the above. I think that there is a change. Quite frankly, I didn't think that we would arrive at a bipartisan package the other day that got signed into law, but we did, because there is a change that I sense among independents and Republicans on this issue. I personally think that we have to do what we have to do in the U.S. House of Representatives and pass this legislation. It may get filibustered in the Senate, but then we have to create a carve-out within the filibuster or eliminate the filibuster altogether to make sure that we have this gun legislation taken up for consideration in the Senate. It only takes 2 or 3 more votes in the Senate to get an elimination of the filibuster or a carve-out within the filibuster for gun rights, for that matter, reproductive freedom and voting rights. And so that's what we need to go to the polls and convince people to hold people accountable to that pledge.
All right, that's where we'll have to leave it for now. We'll be joined again by Congress members later in the program to discuss abortion access and funding in a post-Roe America. For now, thanks to Representatives Robin Kelly, Raja Krishnamoorthi, and Jan Schakowsky.